Traveling is an exhilarating experience. We get to immerse ourselves in new cultures, taste exotic cuisines, and create memories that last a lifetime. Understanding tipping etiquette is crucial. Tipping customs vary wildly from country to country. What's generous in one place might be offensive in another. Let's dive into the world of global tipping. In North America, tipping is more than just a gesture of appreciation. It's an integral part of the service industry. In the United States and Canada, tipping is customary for various services. When dining at restaurants, a tip of 15 to 20% of the bill before tax is standard for good service. Bartenders typically receive $1 to $2 per drink, or 15 to 20% of the tab. Bellhops at hotels usually receive $1 to $2 per bag, while housekeepers are often tipped $2 to $5 per day. Taxi drivers are usually tipped 10 to 15% of the fare. Remember, these are just guidelines. You can adjust your tip based on the quality of service. Europe presents a fascinating mix of tipping cultures. Some countries have a strong tipping tradition, while others see it as unnecessary. In the United Kingdom, a service charge of 10 to 15% is often added to the bill, especially in restaurants. However, it's always a good idea to check the bill first. If a service charge isn't included, tipping around 10% is appreciated. In France, a service charge is usually included, but it's customary to leave a small additional tip, around 5 to 10%. Germany and Italy also typically include a service charge, and a small extra tip is welcomed, but not expected. In Spain, tipping is less common but still appreciated, especially for exceptional service. A small tip of a few euros is usually sufficient. Asia's tipping culture is diverse, with some countries embracing tipping while others find it unnecessary or even offensive. In Japan, tipping is not customary and can even be considered rude. The Japanese believe that providing excellent service is part of their job and doesn't require additional compensation. Similarly, in South Korea and China, tipping is not expected in most situations. However, in tourist-heavy areas, tipping is becoming more common, especially for Western tourists. In Thailand, tipping is not mandatory but is becoming more prevalent, particularly in tourist areas. A small tip of 20 to 50 baht is usually sufficient for good service. Middle Eastern approaches to tipping. Tipping customs in the Middle East vary significantly. In Dubai, tipping is customary, reflecting its cosmopolitan nature. Restaurants include a service charge, but an additional 10% is common. Bellhops are tipped 5 to 10 dirhams per bag. Taxi drivers appreciate 5 to 10 dirhams. In Turkey, tipping is customary but lower. A tip of 5 to 10% is appropriate for restaurants. Bellhops and taxi drivers appreciate 5 to 10 Turkish lira. Tipping shows appreciation for good service. Down under tipping in Australia and New Zealand. Australia and New Zealand have a more relaxed approach to tipping compared to North America. Tipping is not mandatory in either country, as workers are paid a fair minimum wage. However, it's becoming more common to tip for good service, especially in restaurants and bars. If you choose to tip, a 10% tip is considered standard for excellent service. You can also round up the bill to the nearest dollar or leave a few coins as a gesture of appreciation. Just remember that tipping is not expected, so don't feel obligated to tip if you're not happy with the service. Tipping etiquette in Africa. Africa's tipping culture is as diverse as the continent itself. In South Africa, tipping is customary and expected for most services. Restaurants typically add a service charge of 10 to 15%, but it's still customary to leave an additional tip for good service. Bellhops are usually tipped 10 to 20 rand per bag, while taxi drivers appreciate a tip of 10% of the fare. In Egypt, tipping is deeply ingrained in the culture, and it's known as bakshish. It's customary to tip for almost every service, from restaurant servers to hotel staff. Small denominations are preferred for tipping, and it's best to have some local currency on hand. Best practices for tipping around the world. Navigating tipping customs worldwide can feel daunting, but it doesn't have to be. Follow simple guidelines to avoid cultural faux pas. Research your destination before you go. A quick search can provide valuable insights. Check if a service charge is added to the bill. If it has, an additional tip might not be necessary. Carry small bills and coins for convenience. Tipping shows appreciation for good service. If service is exceptional, tip generously.